What's your strangest celebrity encounter? I once saw wee man walk onto my flight and he got off the flight quite drunk. My dog jumped on that chick who plays Dexter's sister. She was not into dogs, and my dog is huge. He must have recognized her from the show. Ran into Conan O'Brien in some hippy-dippy granola store. I was shocked at how tall he is, way taller than the 6 feet 4 inches his IMDb profile reports, as I'm 6 feet 2 inches. When I did a double take, he shot me a nasty glare. All I could think is, dude, I'm not used to meeting people whose shoulders are the same height as my head. Mine is meeting Jason Momoa at the Comic Con of my city and having him pet my hair. At the time my hair was a longer version of his, and the only thing I can see was that he was wondering if it felt the same. He came from behind, so I didn't know who touched me at first, and I turned all angry, ready to tell them to F off, then froze when I saw it was him. He had sunglasses on, so I have no idea what his expression was, lol. It was quite surreal. He ended up doing a noise and left without saying a word. I saw Will Ferrell at an aquarium and he was wearing really weird baggy clothing and we had a stare down. I was trying to see if it was him and I think he was trying to guess if I found out he's Will Ferrell. At a charity golf tournament, Charles Barkley had a really bad putt and threw his club in a fit of anger. He then walked past my brother who wasn't paying attention picking at grass, and he used his head of kind of a rest push off and said, "You must be bored, little man." When I was stationed in Kaneohe Bay in 2012, my best friend and I didn't have enough leave accrued to go home for Christmas, so we were stuck on base, and as a result, had to go to the chow hall for breakfast on Christmas morning. We were greeted by guys with metal detectors at the door, and told that we had to sit in the back corner furthest from the front door so as not to appear in pictures when the president arrived. We both kind of brushed it off and assumed they meant IDK, some other president than the President of the United States. Surely someone would have told us if the President of the United States was going to be eating breakfast with us, right? I guess we were that new. A few minutes later, Barack Obama walks in the rear entrance right where we are seated, throwing everyone off, and my buddy and I were posted all over Google image searches of the president for a few days. We got a picture with him and Michelle. The kicker is that I'm wearing a black v-neck, and my buddy is in a red t-shirt that essentially says "I believe in Santa," and we weren't supposed to be allowed anywhere near the photographs out of uniform. Best Christmas surprise in my adult life. I saw Ryan Gosling at a grocery store in Los Angeles yesterday. I told him how cool it was to meet him in person, but I didn't want to be a douche and bother him and ask him for photos or anything. He said, "Oh, like you're doing now?" I was taken aback, and all I could say was "ha," but he kept cutting me off and going "ha ha ha" and closing his hand shut in front of my face. I walked away and continued with my shopping, and I heard him chuckle as I walked off. When I came to pay for my stuff up front, I saw him trying to walk out the doors with like 15 Milky Ways in his hands without paying. The girl at the counter was very nice about it and professional, and was like, "Sir, you need to pay for those first." At first he kept pretending to be tired and not hear her, but eventually turned back around and brought them to the counter. When she took one of the bars and started scanning it multiple times, he stopped her and told her to scan them each individually to prevent any electrical interference, and then turned around and winked at me. I don't even think that's a word. After she scanned each bar and put them in a bag and started to say the price, he kept interrupting her by yawning really loudly. I came out of a store too quickly one afternoon and not looking literally ran into Dan Aykroyd, John Goodman and Bruce Willis. Class acts who helped me right up. I guess this qualifies as an accidental encounter. I am a big Jimi Hendrix fan. So obviously he died before I was born. I always wanted to meet Billy Cox, who was Hendrix's bass player and the only surviving member to play with Jimi. Billy Cox was the bass player at the 1969 famous guitar solo of the national anthem, in case none of you knew. So anyways, I sold a guitar effect pedal on eBay. The guy's credit card was hacked and he gave me his phone number. I call him and we get to talking. This guy lived in Los Angeles, CA. He asked if I was a Hendrix fan and of course I tell him all my life. So he calls me back and tells me to write a number down and to call it. It was Billy Cox's home number. We hook up and I spend over an hour with him alone at a diner outside of Nashville. He paid for the guitar pedal the guy won off of eBay from me. Signed my guitar strap and signed 2 large pics of him with the band of gypsies and also one with Noel Redding I have never saw before. He was an extremely nice guy. Back in the mid-90s I walked into a 50s themed diner in New York City for lunch. They had old TV sets playing the episode of I Love Lucy where Ricky was singing Babaloo. There was a guy standing on his chair singing along with it at the top of his lungs. It was Adam Sandler. I was drinking in a bar one night and a girl came in and said Aaron Paul was outside in the parking lot passing out Antico pizza. He was in town shooting Need for Speed and apparently is a huge Antico pizza fan, and decided to post on Twitter a challenge to his followers to find him and have pizza. The place he chose was in the parking lot of the bar I was already in. Walked outside, and there was Aaron Paul and inside with the trunk open full of pizza. He passed out the slices, hung out for about an hour and signed autographs and took photos. Honestly, I was more interested in the pizza at the time. I hadn't yet watched much of Breaking Bad but Antico pizza is the bomb. Best pizza in Atlanta hands down. I was having lunch with my then girlfriend in a restaurant in the West Village in NY. It was the middle of the day, after the lunch rush and the place was empty. We were sitting outside and there was another table, only other table being served, next to us. It was Bill Cosby having lunch with a few people. Getting completely drunk. At some point we started chatting with him and he got up and started bussing our table, bringing out our food, etc. He was pretty funny, but also very drunk. So, Bill Cosby was my waiter. No, I was not roofied. Bumped into Conor McGregor last week whilst coming back from a shopping trip. He was going into a gym sports clinic next door to my local off-license and he caught my eye. I waved hello and he gave me a nod. Didn't think to ask for a picture or autograph as he was clearly in a hurry and whilst he is really short in real life, he has a certain menacing aura about him that made me not want to bother him. I once flew to Boston to see Amanda Palmer, singer, married to Neil Gaiman, in a production of Cabaret. I had managed to snag a seat at a table in the front row, but it wasn't the VIP section or anything. In the first number, she came out in a see-through beaded dress with nothing under it and ended up laying across my lap for part of the song. Later on in the show, she came by and fed me some pineapple. The folks in the VIP section got a letter delivered to them and a kiss on the cheek or something, as well as some free swag. I think I got a much better deal, but it was strange night. I met Mark Ruffalo at VidCon last year. He was hiding in the VIP lounge for Defy Media, where I was at, because his son who is unrecognizable wanted to attend the con. I nearly bumped into him on accident as he walked by, and ended up shaking his hand awkwardly. Afterwards I turned to my friend and said, Did I just meet Mark Ruffalo? One day I was sipping on a coffee near the Yale School of Architecture with my girlfriend at the time. She was trying to tell me a story, but I was distracted by a man on the corner who was pacing around and texting on his cell. I said, damn, that guy looks exactly like Fred Armisen. Damn, that is Fred Armisen. Anyways, my ex-girlfriend is a super outgoing person, and I am the exact opposite. Plus she had no idea who Fred Armisen was at the time. This was pre-Portlandia, but he was killing it on SNL, so to her he was just another guy on the corner. She practically dragged me over to him so we could meet. Well, he was such a cool guy. He talked to us for a few minutes, asked us our names and what we doing that day. Honestly, it was one of the most pleasant and natural conversations I've ever had with a stranger. Not sure if that qualifies a stranger really, but we were on one of the more crowded intersections in New Haven, and no one noticed this guy. It is not my story but my stepsister's. My stepmom used to work for Drake's uncle. My stepsister met Drake before he was famous but didn't know him by the name Drake. I guess they ran into each other in a restaurant, said hey as they knew each other, chatted for a bit and that was it. Her friends were shocked she acted so casually, she had no clue he was Drake.